Today is Valentine's Day, and for those that are Destiny 1 and 2 veterans, you may remember a little event called Crimson Days, Bungie's very own Valentine celebration that brought about Crimson Doubles, a mode where you team up with your partner or friend and fight against another team of 2 in the Crucible. That's right, Crimson Doubles was the only time in Destiny history where you could play as a duo against duos. Unfortunately for a lot of you, you likely have no idea what I'm talking about. That is because the last Crimson Days event was all the way back in 2020, 6 years ago. At the beginning of 2021, Bungie announced that the Crimson Days event would be entering the content vault. Apparently, it was missing the marks in terms of quality, so they scrapped it. This supposedly made room for more seasonal things and quests, so it wasn't all doom and gloom. But that was the end of Crimson Days. Let's go down memory lane, back to the very beginning. In 2016, we had our first taste of this event. The tower was decorated with crimson banners, and a path of roses would guide us to Lord Shaxx, who awaited us with a brand new quest. The objective? Complete 7 matches of Crimson Doubles. That proved more difficult than you would imagine. In Destiny 2, all Crucible activities are match-made, even Trials of Osiris. Crimson Doubles in Destiny 1 had no matchmaking, and you couldn't enter the mode as a solo player for a very good reason. What that meant for the average player was that unless you had friends, or LFG'd, or unless you annoyed some stranger in the tower until they played with you, you couldn't actually participate in this event. Once you got past the limitation of having friends, what greeted you was Crimson Doubles, a variation of the elimination mode, meaning just like Trials of Osiris, it was best of 5. This would mean that the mode would foster an inherently competitive environment, as opposed to a mode like Clash where a single death doesn't matter nearly as much. Skill-based matchmaking was also enabled in this mode for a portion of the event, which wasn't on purpose, but it's still really strange that it was released like that because it made matches very sweaty. Not being the best at the Crucible wasn't the be-all and end-all though, because a core part of the Crimson Doubles experience was the Broken Heart buff. When you or your teammate died, the surviving player would become quote-unquote heartbroken, which maxed out your armor, recovery, agility, and reload speed. Heartbroken players also gained a fiery red aura.
La pasión.
After your 7th match, you would complete Shaxx's quest, which granted the emblem Crimson Crest. While Shaxx himself didn't offer any other Crimson Day goodies, he did have his bounties replaced with ones for Crimson Doubles, which along with your normal bounty rewards also gave a random legendary item. Crimson Doubles did offer some unique loot to chase, though truthfully it was not much. After completing a match of Crimson Doubles, you had a chance to receive one of the 4 following event items. There were 2 shaders that had a chance to drop. Valentine, which basically made you red like a tomato, and depending on the item, would have a visible pattern of roses, and Rose Bright, which was a mix of white and various shades of red. The real chase though was the Crimson and Chocolate Ghost Shell. The Crimson Shell was a really nice pinky red, and it had an animated effect and gave off sparkles, while the Chocolate Shell was chocolate. It wasn't edible though. Do not eat your ghost. Everybody of course loves cosmetics, but that wasn't the main reason that the ghosts were desired. Back in Destiny 1, ghost shells had power in the same way that your weapons and armor do, but the only sources of ghost shells also had tons of other loot which could drop instead. While their drop rate in Crimson Doubles was low, you were much more likely to get a ghost there than you would for say in the King's Pool raid, which was a once a week occurrence. That was pretty much all there was to Destiny 1's Crimson Days event, and it would not be seen again until Destiny 2. Before we talk about the return of Crimson Days, we must first talk about Destiny 2's first ever Dawning event. Spoilers, it was really bad. The first Dawning introduced 59 pieces of gear that were unique to the event, which sounds amazing on paper until you learn about how you obtained them. The way you obtained the items was through the Dawning Engram, something that you purchased through Eververse with silver and would give you 2 out of the 59 pieces of gear at random. You could earn up to 3 engrams per week per account for free, so you would receive a total of 18 items during the event, but you could also get duplicates, so it wasn't even 18 unique items. Destiny 2's shader system being on a consumable basis at the time also didn't help at all. Bungie learned from their mistakes, and they delivered hard when Crimson Days made its return a couple of months later in 2018. Crimson Doubles was now 2v2 Clash with matchmaking enabled, making it solo player friendly and much less competitive and sweaty. Completing matches had a chance to drop a Crimson Engram, which you could also get guaranteed every time you leveled up, in addition to the standard Illuminated or Bright Engram you get typically. Unlike with the Dawning, these engrams could be earned infinitely, as long as you put in the time. They also had duplicate protection, so you would not receive the same item twice until you had earned everything at least once. There are far too many items to actually list everything, but you could receive exotic ornaments, shaders, sparrows, ghosts, and emotes. And Shacks also had some milestones, which are essentially weekly challenges to earn some more unique cosmetics, most notably the Diesel Punk ornament for Wardcliff Coil. Bungie also revamped the Broken Heart system from Destiny 1. While nearby your teammate, you both gain the Reunited buff, which increases the charge rate of your abilities. When you're apart from each other, you gain the Falling Apart debuff, which allows the enemy team to see your exact location, so players were encouraged to stay together. Finally, when you or your teammate falls in battle, the surviving player is granted significantly increased ability regeneration and receives a portion of their health back. While Crimson Doubles and the Crimson Engrams were in a really good place, with the exception of the ability spam getting a little too crazy, there was still an issue. There were no weapons to earn. We all love earning some free cosmetics, but what happens if you don't actually care that much about them? Destiny is a looter shooter. It's all about the loot. Sure, cosmetics are technically loot, but when you think of a looter shooter, you think about the weapons and armor. That is what players truly care about, but Destiny 2's first Crimson Day event did not have that. Also, it's a little strange that Bungie never capitalized on a PvE version of Crimson Doubles, which a Reddit user actually suggested back in 2018. It's possible that they avoided this due to the lack of gear in the event, which you do kind of expect to receive after completing a PvE activity. Crimson Days returned the following year in 2019, and Bungie certainly took to heart the issues from the previous year. Sort of. For the first time, the Crimson Days event had a weapon to chase. The Vow, the first bow available to all players outside of the Forsaken DLC. Did you know that when you receive the Vow, you actually become married to Lord Shaxx? I mean it. In the lore attached to the bow, he says, and I quote, "To those of you who win this bow, I offer my hand in marriage. Take it or leave it." While marriage is all good and well, the Vow did not have random rolls, meaning after you earned it for the first time, there was no longer a gear chase. This was a little odd because Forsaken actually reintroduced random rolls on weapons, as prior to the expansion, all weapons had static rolls. The Vow had the combination of rapid hit plus Archer's tempo, a staple combo on most bows today, but it also dropped at 650 power, the max power at the time. You could purchase the Vow from Shaxx for 100 confectionery hearts, which you could earn by competing in Crimson Doubles and completing the daily event bounties, which did include some PvE bounties. While the milestones no longer awarded specific items, as that was delegated to the confectionery hearts, completing all the associated Crimson Day triumphs would award you with the Sugary Ghost Shell, which is basically Destiny 2's version of the chocolate shell from Destiny 1. Again, ghosts are not edible. Do not eat them. 2020's Crimson Days event would eventually be known as the final ever Crimson Days, and it was exactly the same as the previous year, with the exception of 2 exotic sparrows that could be purchased with confectionery hearts, the SBC-12 and IBC-10. When driven together side by side, their holographic effects form a heart. Not coincidentally, the names are also references to the human heart. SBC stands for Superior Vena Cava, which returns blood from the top of the body to the heart, and IBC is the Inferior Vena Cava, which returns blood from the bottom of the body, again back to the heart. As we mentioned at the start of the video, Bungie would announce in early 2021, around a week and a half prior to when the event would normally start, that Crimson Days was no more. While this was disappointing, it really came as no surprise to most players. While Clash is definitely less competitive than Elimination, it is still 2v2. No matter what you do, it will always play more competitively than in 6v6, where your individual performance doesn't matter nearly as much. Crimson Doubles also kinda just boiled down to who can spam the most abilities, and the technically correct answer is Hunters, who can essentially stay invisible forever in the mode. With no real loot to chase, the player base's engagement with the event dropped off year after year, until Bungie eventually called it quits. While Crimson Days is no more, the cosmetics still live on, at least for this week. With the most recent weekly reset, Eververse actually has a small selection of Crimson Day items available to purchase with Bright Dust, including an ornament for the Vow, which I find a little strange since you cannot get the bow anymore. It would have been nice if Shaxx gave us a copy, maybe even with a different role, since the original perk combination was nothing special. It just seems strange to sell an ornament for a weapon that hasn't been seen in 6 years, and was only available for a total of 2 weeks. There's also a free bundle which includes 4 items: the Crimson Passion and Crimson Valor shaders, the Armor Dance emote, all of which are from Crimson Days, and then the Love Struck ornament for Sunshot, an ornament which was previously available to purchase and proceeds to go to the Bungie Foundation. I know some people are upset that this is being given out for free, but the money still went to a good cause, and at the end of the day, that's the main reason people should have been purchasing it, to do a good thing. Well, that was the history of Crimson Days. While short-lived, and it certainly faced some issues over the years, nobody can argue that the event and mode wasn't welcomed or missed. Whether you're playing Destiny or some other game, or going out with your partner or friends, I hope you have a good Valentine's Day or just a good Saturday. As always, thank you for watching, have a great day.